Hello, I'm going to be talking about those laboratories again. And that's because the Russians are saying they are invading Ukraine because Ukraine is conducting evil American-funded research in laboratories. Now, every country on the planet is conducting dangerous research. I'll get to that in a minute. But I intend to use some strong language because there have been a lot of people writing under my videos some really stupid stuff. Now, obviously, you can disagree with what I'm saying, but calling me an old bat, that doesn't solve the argument, dear boys. And you're always boys, aren't you? So I'm going to use some strong language directed particularly to those, although with any luck they'll have left my channel, and so that's okay. Yeah, just in case. And you see, look, my past couple of videos, which have been dealing with the Russian pretext for their invasion, or one of the pretexts that they cooked up when they started getting stuck in the mud. I'm not saying that they're not studying dangerous stuff, and I'm not saying that they haven't got funding from America. Everybody gets funding from America. They get funding from other countries as well. So that's not a huge deal. I'm not saying that that's all, that none of that is happening. What I'm saying is that everybody does it, and the Russians are using pretexts. And I'm just going through it again simply because I want to irritate the sort of people who seem to get irritated by this, and I want to inform the sort of people who are interested in the aspects of this. Okay. So far I've said the only proof we have of terrible Ukrainian horrible things is assertions from the Russians. And what shocked me is how many people, who, for very good reasons, disbelieve what the American government tells them. I understand that. I don't believe them myself. But I don't understand why they're falling over themselves to believe what the Russian government tells them. They actually seem to think that the Russians are more truthful than the Americans, which is, of course, preposterous. So, here's the strong language, folks. Russian shills, just go fuck yourselves. Okay, having got that out of the way, I shall now go through a clip of Tulsi Gabbard saying not much in a lot of words. People keep sending me this clip. I've had it sent several times, and they seem to think it proves something. Well, it doesn't prove anything, and that's why I'm going through it. First of all, I want to say I admire Tulsi Gabbard a great deal, but she is a politician and she's taking advantage of a situation, and all politicians do that. No problem with that. It's not entirely to the bad because she's definitely got a point. She's talking the truth as well, but still, it's to her advantage to jump on this particular bandwagon, and that's what she's doing. So I'm going to read out what she said. Here are the undeniable facts. There are 25 to 30 US-funded biolabs in Ukraine. Maybe there are. In fact, I don't see why that shouldn't be the case. But US-funded biolabs doesn't mean that the US is funding the whole thing. It means they are funding projects. Now, according to the US government, these biolabs are conducting research on dangerous pathogens. Every research lab in the world is conducting research on dangerous pathogens. They're all doing it. That's how you find the cures for diseases. The gain of function business was Fauci going beyond what was acceptable. That's all, in his hubris. But they're all doing it. Look, it's quite common for governments to farm out research into to different labs, especially if those labs are dealing with something specific to a specific area. For instance, according to the World Health Organization, there are several studies into dengue fever, which is a horrible illness in Brazil. Can you hear the dog moaning? So, without a doubt, there'll be some American funding into that research in Brazil. And for instance, let's just take a hypothetical case where Argentina decides to invade Brazil and uses an excuse that Brazil is conducting pathogenic research funded by the USA. That's my dog. He can hear me getting passionate. That poor thing. He doesn't understand. Anyway, look, you see what I mean. Any country can use any excuse. It wants to, that thing about the wolf and the lamb, the Aesop's fable, where the wolf tells the lamb that she's drinking water, and dirtying the water for him. And then the lamb says, no, I'm downstream of you. I can't be spoiling your water. And the wolf says, well, I'm going to eat you anyway. Well, it's that sort of thing. Okay, right. So let's get back to Tulsi Gabbard. Ukraine is an active war zone with widespread bombing, artillery and shelling, and these facilities, even in the best of circumstances, could easily be compromised and release these deadly pathogens. Now, like COVID, these pathogens know no borders. If they are inadvertently or purposely breached or compromised, they will quickly spread all throughout Europe, the United States and the rest of the world, causing untold suffering and death. So, in order to protect the American people, the people of Europe, the people around the world, these labs need to be shut down immediately and the pathogens that they hold need to be destroyed. And she's quite right there. The thing is, we don't know whether that's already been done. It could have been, couldn't it? And then she carries on. Instead of trying to cover this up, the Biden-Harris administration needs to work with Russia, Ukraine, NATO, the UN, or immediately implement a ceasefire for all military action in the vicinity of these labs until they're secured and these pathogens are destroyed. Much as I disrespect the Biden-Harris administration, it appears to me that they are not trying to cover anything up. They might not know about stuff because they don't know about plenty of stuff. But I agree with Gabbard in this say. But this doesn't mean to say that the Americans are in any way responsible. As I said, research is research, and funding comes from all over the place. In addition to all this is Gabbard again, the US funds around 300 biolabs around the world. Yeah, and again, not necessarily the whole lab, just funding of various research. 300 biolabs around the world who are engaged in dangerous research, including gain of function, similar to the lab in Wuhan, where COVID-19 may have originated from. Now, after realising how dangerous and vulnerable these labs are, they should have all been shut down 2 years ago, but they haven't. Now, this is not a partisan political issue. Yeah, of course it is. I'm not saying she's wrong, but yes, it's a partisan political issue. The administration and Congress need to act now. Yeah, and they do. They do. We all do. For the health and well-being of every American and every person on the planet. Look, she's not talking rubbish. Years ago, there was a thing about smallpox. They had eradicated smallpox from the planet. And there was discussion about whether certain labs should hang on to smallpox samples. And I remember talking to some scientist or other about this, and I said, well, yeah, in my youth and inexperience, I said, well, of course they should get rid of it completely. And this guy said, well, yeah, but what if an outbreak of something very similar to smallpox happens? We won't be prepared for it. And that's the point. So you see, the world of science is replete with grey areas and difficult choices. I don't think they have got rid of the smallpox, the last bits of it, but I don't know. Perhaps they have. Anyway, we do need some sort of international convention about shutting down dangerous facilities of any sort in countries under attack or subject to some sort of natural disaster. Not that I think the Russians would take much notice of that, and Tulsi Gabbard is fully aware of that, which is why I was saying some of the stuff she is speaking is well-meaning and right, but still a lot of hot air. Anyway, now I'm going on to something else, a nice picture show. So stop what you're doing and look at the screen now. I know a lot of people just listen. Well, this time you've got to watch, because I'm going to put up some pictures, and they're of a building which used to stand in North London. And I passed by it very often, very frequently, and it was in a very well-off area of North London called Totteridge. And there were some really, big houses, very comfortably off people there. And there was this beautiful building. It really is a nice building. Do you see those electric gates, though? The high fence, those gates were manned night and day. They were very secure, let's put it that way. And there were vans going round it all the time. And nearby there was a barracks, an army barracks. That's gone as well now, as has this building. It's a beautiful Art Deco building, and it was decommissioned in 2016, and the research was moved to a place called the Francis Crick Institute, which is now just around the corner from the British Museum, in the absolute centre of London. And you'd think, why? Because it does biohazard research. And I can prove that to you, because this photo here is, these photos were all taken by those guys that go round abandoned buildings. And, well, just see that sign and you'll understand. Anyway, it struck me as very strange when they were going to move it to the this new Francis Crick Institute next to the British Museum. However, it's also right next to St Pancras train station, and my theory is that most of the institute is underground, possibly making use of old excavations to do with the underground lines. I don't know whether you realise this, but London is honeycombed with underground lines that aren't being used anymore, and the public never get to see them. Anyway, that's another subject. What is the subject is that without doubt, some of the research in the new building, as in the old building, will be using American funds and German funds, and possibly even Chinese funds. And anyone with an agenda could accuse the UK of conducting dangerous medical research. As for the old building, when they decommissioned it and moved out, the intention was to have a lot of flats and houses there on the site. And I thought that they'd convert the old building. You can all see it was a graceful Art Deco construction with lots of windows, well lit, solidly built, but they didn't use it. They took it apart brick by brick and carted it away as rubble, including all those beautiful, staircases and doorways and things. Now, why do you think they did that? Just asking. I am Graniopteryx. I am to be found on Rumble, on YouTube, Rumble, BitChute and Minds. I always let you know when I've uploaded a new video on Twitter, Gab or Parler. So if you subscribe to one of those, you'll get a notification. My handle on those platforms is @Graniopteryx. Okay, well, till next time. Why not treat yourself or a favoured relative or friend to these magnificent examples of merch? The mugs and t-shirts come in the Graniopteryx design or Granbo, with a firearm or the more deadly knitting needles. Go to www.grannyopteryx.com, and whatever platform you're watching this on, please click like, subscribe and share.